Folks, welcome to Beyond Tax Season podcast. My guest today is Nicole DeRosa. Nicole is a CPA and Director of Tax at SKC & Co. CPAs. It's a 35-person firm in New Jersey with an office in California and is the largest female-owned accounting firm in the state of New Jersey. She is also, and this is not a footnote, a Zumba instructor of 15 years and the voice behind Zumba CPA Chick on Instagram. I want you to hold on to those two facts next to each other for a second, because Nicole is going to argue they're the same fact. Her platform, and she's been building it deliberately, is that there are dynamic opportunities inside this profession that you can do what you love and love what you do on a daily basis. And the stereotype of the accountant is costing us the next generation. Inside her firm, that conviction shows up as an infrastructure. Nicole sits on a council whose entire job is evaluating what's coming. That council put AI tax research into production more than a year before it became the thing everybody was demoing at conferences. We'll use brand names only if you want to, Nicole.
Okay.
Her firm read the Activator Advantage together, chunk by chunk, and has spent the last 6 months running Clifton's strengths across the entire team, not as an exercise, but instead to pair people up and figure how their strengths actually work together. Nicole, welcome to the Beyond Tax Season podcast.
It all sounded great. No, it all sounded great. I'm
Perfect,
excited to be here.
perfect. So when we met prior to get ready for this, that you mentioned something about an aha moment.
Mhm.
You told me everyone in this profession has had one, and anyone who says they haven't is lying. Yours wasn't, do I leave? It was, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? And yes, but on terms that fill my cup. Where were you when that question landed?
It's kind of funny because when I first decided to pursue a career in accounting, I was in high school. I was actually a junior in high school with Mrs. Jones, which I know sounds kind of funny because it's like just junior in high school. Who actually knows what the heck they want to do with their life? But I took an accounting class and I really, really enjoyed it. So I knew that, eventually obtaining my CPA license was a must. And then the goal for me, because I knew I wanted to be in public accounting, was to ultimately one day make partner. And fast forward to my previous firms, we won't mention any names, but I was in the office one day and the tax partner in charge just kind of strolled into my office casually and he sat down in the chair across from my desk and just casually said, we're going to be promoting you to partner, effective, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was obviously ecstatic because, that was a huge goal for me. But in my mind, I was like, wow, seriously? Did that just happen? No meeting, no nothing. Like it was very anticlimactic and just so matter of fact. And, obviously, my answer was yes, that did just happen. 5 minutes later, he walked out of my office and I, called my mom immediately, told her the news, but I was like, you know, if this is gonna, this was kind of weird for me because I was like, this is how I was told that I'm getting this huge promotion. And, fast forward then, a year, 2 years down the road, my partner experience really did not align with what I had envisioned at all. So I actually left that firm and I, took it upon myself to decide if this was what it was really going to be. Did I want to truly do this for the rest of my life?
Wow, there's so much there. I've got a whole bunch of things that are cue me to keep the conversation going. But tell me again, the year when you were offered, not offered, you were told you are a partner. But when did that, how many years after college?
Oh, you're asking me to do math. I
Roughly
mean, I
5 years.
graduated. I graduated college. I graduated from Fairleigh Dickinson with my bachelor's, my master's in accounting, and that was what 2009-ish. And I would say it was 2 years after making partner that I left. So I left what 2.5 years ago. So 2024 minus 2009. Do that math.
Okay, so 15 years in the profession.
Yeah, give or take.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Plus an
okay.
internship in between, so maybe a
Right,
little bit
right,
more,
right, right,
but
right, right,
yeah,
right.
we'll say 15 years.
What's so interesting is it took you 2 years. I've met a lady who she made partner and quit the next day.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. So I mean I was 2 years because I want, I was excited. Obviously, it was a huge goal for me. And, it just as the days continued on, I just didn't see that there was alignment really. And, my legacy, I want to have an impact, on people, on the profession. I want to leave it better than I found it. And that wasn't happening for me at my previous firm. So
So it's
I
just
took, I
a
took
tidbit.
bold action and, I
Yeah,
reevaluated everything. Um, you
amazing.
know, I
So
truly love tax. I was
yeah,
gonna say, I truly love tax. I truly love variety. I love the challenges. I love being in a profession where I could have an impact. So, reevaluating my non-negotiables became really, really important. And I decided to build the career that, I believe in. And, I found myself having a very interesting conversation actually at the Forbes top CPAs in America reception with the managing partner of SKC, Sarah Crom, who I've actually known for over a decade through our involvement with the NJCPA. So that was kind of a full circle moment for me. And that's where, the ball started rolling for my SKC. I'm going to say the seed was planted at that celebration for Forbes.
before we move on, you tripped over. I wanted to be a partner. When did that come to you? Not in high school.
Well, I mean, in high school, it was like if I'm going to pursue a career in accounting, I'm going to get my CPA. And if I'm going to be in public accounting, the partner track is the track I want to be on. I didn't just want to be a forever manager or a forever, supervisor or senior manager. Like I want to make it to the top and, CPA license, that's a necessity. And, partner, that was just something that I had always, wanted from the get-go. So whether it was in college or whether it was when I was, an intern or whether it was when I was a staff, who actually really knows, but I knew I wanted a career in public accounting, and that was kind of the end goal.
Got it. Got it. So you also mentioned something around the human element in a year of noise. Uh, AI on one side, private equity on the other, college students asking whether the job will exist. What can't be automated in this profession?
AI is never going to replace the human element, period. End of story. I think that, a lot of people forget that very simple fact. In accounting and law and business in general in life, we as humans, we thrive off of relationships and genuine relationships, not just very basic transactional relationships, genuine relationships, picking up a phone, asking how someone's actually doing, wishing their, happy anniversary, birthday, whatever it may be. AI will never replicate that human touch, that human element. It might help remind us of certain milestones and events, but it's never going to replace a genuine, handwritten card or an actual conversation.
Right, right. So, what do you tell a 20-year-old who's reading the headlines and rethinking their major?
Don't believe everything that you read. Do your fake news, right? It's do your own research, talk to people in the profession, talk with people who are actually doing what you want to do. I see so many students on LinkedIn now, which I think is wonderful. I think it's great because back when I was a student, we didn't have LinkedIn. So now, fast forward to 2026, tons and tons of college students are on LinkedIn. They're visible, they're sending messages, they're posting. I think it's excellent. Through LinkedIn and through my Zumba CPA Chick Instagram platform, I always try to kind of showcase those dynamic opportunities within the accounting profession. And I try to break that stereotype and that stigma associated with accounting because it's really not a great one. I do think that we have had some really positive movement though to kind of shift the pendulum to, accounting is sexy. It could be sexy if you want it to be. Yeah, I think a lot of people think we just work really hard. We're antisocial. We're very introverted. We don't do anything fun. Do we work hard? Absolutely. But do we have fun too? Heck yes.
So I have this concept called the wisdom ladder. Uh, it's not mine. I use it to frame the accounting profession around data
Hmm.
that is turned into information, and then knowledge is applied. There are two issues that I'm seeing. One, the knowledge is becoming commoditized. Apply a fact pattern to data, or apply AI to a fact pattern that includes data and information, and you can come up with a pretty good framework of what the answer should be. So that's commoditizing that part of it. And the other big part I've found in the profession is that knowledge used to be the pillar, but the knowledge was used on everything that was in the past.
Hmm.
How are you guiding, or how are you personally taking and building knowledge that looks forward as a deliverable for clients? What does that look like for you as a tax director and inside the firm?
So it was funny. We were actually just talking about this yesterday in a meeting for one of the other councils that I sit on at SKC, that I'm involved in. And it's something I'm quite fond of. Learning and development. I think it's paramount in our profession, whether it's, we have a growth mindset individually. We want to always keep learning. And also we turn around and we pass the knowledge on, we pay it forward, because how else are, team members going to be able to learn if someone isn't helping them kind of learn or show them the way. You can't just expect people to do things on their own. You have to kind of help them, or at least guide them to a certain degree. So, without having a strong foundation, a house is not going to stand. It's going to buckle. And if it does, maybe if it does stand, it's not going to stand for long, or maybe it'll stand and be really, really flimsy. But, you know, going back to AI, it's great because I think a lot of people are trying to replace the AI and say, like, oh, we can, do this with AI. We don't have to learn XYZ because AI is just going to do it for us. But, without, we don't know what we don't know. So if we blindly just trust the output of AI, we're in a very, very scary area. I believe that, hands-on training is still very, very important, and taking the time to actually explain to people the why behind something, why it's done, why we're doing, like why it makes sense, why it's taxed to this way. I try to always teach how I would have liked to be taught. If I had not understood something, I would have asked my supervisor back in the day, and she would have done a really great job at explaining to me the why. So I try to almost pay it forward, because the concept is not going to stick unless you understand the foundation and the why. So, I say you build that foundation to that house by being intentional and by also being hands-on with team members, case studies, little projects, all real life stuff that adds value. I also do teach a lot of continuing education courses through the NJCPA. I speak at a lot of conferences, teaching tax, teaching professional development type of courses. So I do believe getting out there and kind of sharing the wealth of paying it forward and the knowledge, if you will, in person, virtually, is very, very important. Somebody can sit and read an article. It might not register, maybe it will register, but everyone also has different learning styles. So it's important to kind of factor that into the equation too. But you can't supplement everything with AI.
No, 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 no. AI can only be uh, leverage of knowledge.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. In what you just said, there were like 5 layers of Russian doll that I was visioning. You know, so let's start with just you and your client interactions.
Hmm.
What is the tax director? Because I imagine you have clients large enough that they have different departments interact with the client.
Right.
So what does that look like such that it's not a silo? Because my experience with, as firms grow and have larger clients and have less revenue pressure, uh, they feel comfortable delivering what they deliver and then hope that the next department does as good a job as they did. Or there's the silo is the biggest issue, not the biggest, but it's a big issue.
The
So
big
how
issue.
are you interacting with your clients? What type of clients do you interact with? And what does that look like? Now, that's one of the Russian dolls, right? That's just
Okay.
what you do. Now, let's talk about the icon of the partner that said, no, no, they're my clients. You can't talk to them. I have a sense that's not the way SKC works.
No, not at all.
So when do you bring the junior in to say junior? And when I mean junior staff member, the learning staff member. When do you bring them in? How do you let the client know why they're there, what they're doing, and how do you tell the learning team member why they're there and what they should be getting? Is that enough?
Yeah. So it's definitely not a silo. We operate, I would say, with like a team approach, if you will. So, each client kind of has a quarterback that's assigned to their account. Um, Maybe it's the partner, maybe it's myself, maybe it's another team member, whoever it may be that works collectively on that account. And then there's also, maybe an accountant that, does the bookkeeping or the tax preparation or whatever it is. That client has access to the partner, it has access to the quarterback, and the accountant who's doing the prep work is potentially involved as well, depending on the complexity of the transaction or what have you, what they maybe need to request. So, for example, one of the clients that I would say I'm the quarterback on, I I'm corresponding with them pretty consistently. They're reaching out to me if they need something. My team member who is doing the bank reconciliations and the bookkeeping, he will reach out to the client and ask for the bank statements or if any information is needed or clarification is needed. And it's really a two-way street, and it all comes down to communication. And it all also comes down to, making sure that the client is comfortable, because obviously we don't want to bombard them with 20 different people. But we also want to make sure that they are getting the service that they're paying for and in a timely manner. So, partners are running around, doing 20 different things at the same time. So, as a quarterback, I always try to just help them out a little bit more and free up some time on their plate. But at the end of the day, it's really all about communication. And, we'll do an email introduction, or maybe we'll have we do like to meet with our clients at least on a quarterly cadence. So if we're meeting in person, maybe that team member will come along so they could actually meet the client in person. Obviously, if we're doing a meeting virtually, maybe they'll be on the call or the video chat, whatever it is, so they could actually meet the client. So it's not just a name behind the email. So, I would definitely say it's really just strong communication and being transparent.
So the quarterback analogy is well used. Another analogy is the Mayo Clinic, where every specialty, even though the patient didn't present with their specialty, every specialty is in that initial onboarding so there's definitely that collaboration.
Mhm.
Uh, so as you were saying, you said you already answered cadence quarterly. How are you engaging the clients and tying services to outcomes to fees? Is it billing after the fact? Is it subscription? What's going on there at this high level, very well organized firm? You can't have 35 people on a team and not have already crossed over the black hole of growth that happens at about $3 million of revenue. At 35, you're an enterprise.
Mhm.
So how are you presenting to the client your value and how is it paid for?
So SKC, we have a very, I would say, unique structure in the sense that we bill monthly. So we have an annual fee, if you will, and that's divided by 12, and then that's billed on a monthly basis. Of course, special projects might pop up, maybe an IRS audit, sales tax audit, tax notices, whatever it may be. If it's outside the scope of the engagement, that would be an additional charge. But going back to communication and the transparency, they know what they're getting billed every single month. And they agree to that when they sign our engagement letter. When they first come on as a client, obviously the proposal includes everything that's within the scope of the annual fee. We do have minimum fees, but we also have different kind of, I'm going to say levels, if you will. And I'm going to say a little bit subscription in the sense of if you want, bookkeeping on a monthly basis versus bookkeeping on a quarterly basis, if you want, XYZ, it's all built into the price. So they know what they're getting billed on a monthly basis, which also makes it easier for us on a collections standpoint and also billing standpoint because it kind of flattens the seasonality curve, if you will. A lot of firms do bill after the return is completed, or maybe they do a progress bill halfway through, but that's all contingent on when the tax return actually goes out the door. If a tax return goes on extension, you might not be getting paid until October. So, you have a peak and a valley, whereas billing on a monthly basis, it smooths that curve.
The modern firm has already recognized that. The problem is there are very few modern firms. There's so many that are still riding that roller coaster of cash flow created by that hamster wheel of compliance.
Yeah, I mean, it's also for the client, I would argue that it's a more pleasurable experience for them because again, they aren't getting hit with a $20,000 fee or $24,000 fee once a year. They're getting hit 1/12, 1/12, 1/12. So it's also
Yeah,
more
yeah, no, that
sensible
makes
to them
perfect sense.
too.
Here's the issue I've noticed is that scope creep is a sensitive topic.
Hmm.
How do you guys, and I use you guys in the Pennsylvania, if I were true South, I'd say, how do
You say
y'all
use guys, use with an
use
S,
guys,
use
use guys?
guys.
Yeah. Um, how often do you review? How are fee reviews triggered? Who leads that? Hey, this is out of scope conversation, because it unless you set the relationship up right to begin with, and
Mhm.
everybody's understanding clear communication is going to be part of our relationship, you'll sometimes see CPAs just accept scope creep. How are you guys handling scope creep?
So, I mean, it's a catch-22, right? We're not going to be 100% perfect on this, but we are sure as heck going to try. I think part of it becomes, or part of it is based on, shouldn't say based on, but part of it comes from the clients that we are accepting as clients. We are not, we are very picky. And if we are bringing you on as a client, we see that there's a fit, a good fit, and that, we work with each other. It's a very two-way street type of a relationship. So communication, again, we are not afraid or we're not afraid to kind of, be like, hey, listen, this is not part of your engagement. This is not part of the scope. It's going to cost you extra. Now, that's obviously a discussion that's held with the partner and the client. But also, maybe the client sends a team member a tax notice and asks, hey, can you look into this for us or whatever it may be. And the team member might not know that's outside the scope, but generally speaking, I would say that at SKC, we're very good about, hey, partner on the account, is this extra work? Do we bill it or do we code it in our time and billing software as special project, or do we, how do we account for the
Yeah,
time?
yeah, yeah.
Because tax notices, they don't just take 2 seconds to answer. Usually it's drafting a power of attorney, drafting a response, following up with the IRS. Like it's a process. So depending on what the engagement says, it may or may not be within the scope. Some of our engagements do include tax notices, some do not. Some include projections, some do not. So it's a matter of understanding what services we are offering to the client, what they signed up for. And that's part of our onboarding process and also kind of, the when we're reviewing the proposal as well with them, we make sure that, we are pretty outwardly outspoken, if you will, about it, just to kind of this is what it includes and
What
educating
what
them.
are, what are you seeing in the on the client side as far as the openness to having this real conversation? So they, because at a certain level, there are professionals on the other side, not mom and pop.
Hmm.
And the professionals on the other side may have already come from the public side. So is that where you're living? Or are you having to train the mom and pops that have grown well on, no, this is the real world over here?
Reality check. No. So we are we pride ourselves on, we work with business owners and entrepreneurs, and we don't do the one-off 1040. We don't do the one-off business return. We see the whole picture. So, if a prospective client doesn't align with that mindset, we're not going to, there's not going to be a good fit there. So we'll either refer them to somebody else, or they may be already be shopping with other accounting firms for a new CPA. But I would like to say, because of that initial fit evaluation, a lot of our clients truly want to grow as partners.
Mm,
We are
mm.
evaluating and having those conversations about, what your business goals are, maybe what your life goals are. Do you want to retire at a certain age? Okay, let's make that happen. Let's start now. Let's, plan
Wow.
for that now. We're having these regular conversations. So, it's part of the client experience and the client relationship. And I would say that, a simple tax notice, maybe it pops up. It's a conversation too. It's not just like, no, we're not going to do that. It's going to be X amount of dollars. It'll be, this isn't within the scope of the engagement. Maybe this one time we'll do it, but just so you know, going forward, it's not, part of the scope, and it'll be billed on our hourly rates next time. But a conversation is always going to happen. It's not just going to be a surprise extra bill in, you know, come
No,
once.
that's great. Oh, you triggered a, who brought that spirit to the firm? Because in my experience, it's so much like, this is what we do. Do you want it? As opposed to, what outcomes are you going for? Ah, we can support that, and this is how much it'll cost you for us to support that. Right. So who brought that goals conversation into the ethos of the firm?
I mean, I would say, our managing partner, Sarah Crom, it was, her, but it was also Andrea Diaz and Caitlin Smith. There are three partners, and as a whole, our entire firm, I would say, has a similar mentality. We talk about fit with clients, but it's also fit with team members. So we all have the same kind of spirit, if you will. And, we're all on board. So we're all rowing the boat the same way. We're all flying in the same direction. So it's a lot easier to also kind of implement that on, to our clients, and kind of project that onto our clients, because we eat, sleep, and breathe it. And we all have the same kind of core values internally. So it's easy to project them externally.
You've used the word fit, and I've just worked with a client recently as they develop their client evaluator tool,
Hmm.
and they've taken it and fed it into Claude so that Claude takes
Interesting.
the meeting transcript and the client evaluator tool and the pricing for services, and out comes a proposal. So so let's start with the fit. How rigorous is the fit metric matrix documented and used?
Yeah, so I would say we don't have anything like formal via Claude that's like an output per Claude, or we have to check all these boxes. We always have kind of a discovery call first.
Hmm.
That's before the proposal even happens.
Sure.
The call is to kind of get to know, the prospect, obviously, what they're looking for service wise, why they might be looking for a new accountant, what, obviously fell short at a previous firm, or what they didn't like, or why they feel like they need to change, what their goals are business wise, and also personally as well. Because again, we want to make sure that we have that relationship where we're the trusted advisor, and they call us for all things, and they don't just go rogue and call us after the fact. And we're like, oh, that's a bad tax implication right there, but you already did it, so now we can't help you. We just have to minimize. I briefly mentioned that, we work with entrepreneurs and business owners, so it's really important that, there's alignment from the get-go. And, just the other week, I had a call with a referral from a current client, and, the prospect was just starting out their business, like hadn't even formed an LLC yet. And, we knew right away that SKC was not going to be a good fit for this person because, they weren't even established yet. They hadn't even started their business. But, perhaps in a few years, maybe they will be a client and a good fit for us. But we didn't just kind of like say, all right, too bad, so sad, going your merry way. We gave him two referrals to attorneys to help him form the LLC. Told him that once he gets those up and running, that we would be happy to give him referrals to a CPA that would be a better fit for him as well. We're not just going to leave him kind of up a creek without a paddle, because that's not how we operate. And, we obviously want to make sure that, he gets set up and is in good hands. And he also came to us from a current client. So it was a internal referral. So, that's just kind of, that's how we operate. We're not going to leave somebody hanging. We're going to try to set them up for success and ultimately pay it forward, because you never know. Again, 3 years down the road, he may be coming back and saying, "Hey, I'm ready for you guys," and
Got
maybe
it.
then it'll be
Let-
better
let- let-
fit.
yeah, let's talk about they're moving from their prior accountant. What are you seeing the clients speak about? How do they express their need for new and their need for change, what they think they need and want versus what they didn't like in their former relationship? What are you seeing from the marketplace that shows up on your doorstep?
An overwhelming lack of client service, unfortunately, is
Client service.
what people are
What does that
really.
mean? What does client service mean?
They can't get in touch with their
Ah,
accountant.
okay,
They
okay.
call, they don't get a call back. They get send an email, they don't get an email back. They, are waiting for their taxes to be finalized, and they don't understand why they can't be finalized, because in their mind they've furnished all the information. So why isn't it getting done? Lack of communication just all around. And unfortunately, that's kind of an overwhelming reason why I feel like a lot of our prospective clients and our new clients are coming and knocking at our door because they're just not getting the client service at their current or previous accounting firm. And they don't feel like there's a value for what they're paying.
So I'm hearing responsiveness
Hmm.
and collaboration. They're
Or
not
lack
getting
lack
response
of actually
lack
lack
of,
of
right.
both.
They're
Yeah.
not they're not getting their lack of responsiveness and lack of any type of value from the compliance function. You're not just compliance shop.
I mean,
You're
anyone can pop a number into a box and generate a tax return.
right.
You give a document, anyone can prepare a tax return, but it's a matter of, are you having those conversations about, tax planning opportunities? Are you having a conversation about potentially, succession planning and, what's it going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years, and how do we get there? And taking a genuine interest in the success of that client's business. Anyone can do a tax return, but that's not going to move the needle.
Right.
It's going to
Right.
check a box, but it's not going to move
Right.
the needle.
You did run across the term CAS. What does CAS mean to you?
So for SKC, it means concierge accounting services.
Hmm.
We kind of changed the name a little bit. It's not the standard CAS anymore, but it's still CAS related, if you will. But we like to use the word concierge because it's kind of the white glove treatment. There's a lot of collaboration, there's a lot of communication. It's not just, oh, we're reconciling monthly bank statements. We are in the numbers. If they're a bookkeeping client, we are offering, that's one of the services that we do offer at SKC. But we have a whole department that's literally designated to these types of services. And, Sarah Smith, who kind of, she is the face behind our cast department. She is extremely embedded in, all things training our team, helping out where there might be some, hiccups or road bumps along the way, and making sure that, all of our clients are also handled with that kind of white glove, gold star standard.
So give me a success story. Give me a like this is what Cass has done for this. Not don't use names, obviously, but
Hmm.
uh, but when it like the client says, "You're kidding. Wow, that's great."
So just this past week, I actually have an example. We have a new client that onboarded with us for their 2025 tax returns. Their prior CPA did the tax return, and that's kind of it. Bookkeeping, maybe I'll put in air quotes, but books were a complete mess. And the client knew it. He is running his business. He's not in the weeds with his books. He knew that they were a mess. So we onboarded him. We said there's going to be some, QuickBooks cleanup involved. Little did we know actually how much cleanup was necessary. But Sarah was able to jump in, fix all things 2025, and also opening into 2025 from 2024 that the prior CPA kind of missed. There was additional deductions that she essentially found. There were estimates that were paid that the taxpayer didn't even realize were actually paid on his behalf. I called the state of New York, I called New York City, and confirmed that these were in fact on his account so that when we go to file the returns, everything matches and jives. But, you know, when we first took this client on, we obviously didn't know what we didn't know. But the success about this is now clients completely caught up with all things books and records. We were able to quantify exactly what was on the account, and now they're going to have a little bit more of a refund because, again, these payments were on the account that he didn't even know about. But it was money that, it's his money, so he's happy. He gets more money back now. We will make sure that no extra money is paid going forward. That doesn't have to be paid. But now
Mhm.
just going forward, it's a kind of more regular cadence. It's he has a good idea of if he wants to see, okay, where is my business standing for this first 6 months of the year? I know I can trust these numbers. And, he is kind of, I'm going to say, not at the early stages of the business, but, he's grown tremendously over the past 3 years. So, it's really important for him to be able to reach out to us and, ask certain questions about directions that he wants to go in and pursue with his business. And then obviously now he just has a better handle over everything. And that was we literally talked to New York just this week. And the prior week is when we kind of had this aha discovery moment on these are tax payments. And he had no idea that they were even made. He didn't know what they were. So
That's great. That's great. Uh,
a couple of extra
okay.
$1,000,
Uh,
not bad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What'd you say?
Has a couple extra $1,000 in his pocket now that
Yep.
he's going to be getting
Yep.
back as a refund. Not bad.
Exactly. 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 Well, this is great. It's better for the client. It's better for the team. And I think we talked about the book Firm Forward.
Yes, briefly, maybe.
It's the crusty old managing partner founded the firm, the young partner that everybody knows is going to take that seat eventually, until finally the big client said, you guys aren't delivering. I'm going to find something else. And the two in waiting, I want to be advisory, leaning forward type accountant service. They left. So he was able to right the ship by promising a really proactive, first relevant chart of accounts all the way through to everybody understands their role in the financials. Brought the people back. Does that book remind you? Oh, I highly recommend it because you
I'm not
addressed.
a huge reader. Reading the Activator Advantage for the firm was like a big deal for me.
I know, I know, I know. Well, then the, go to a Zumba class listening to it on an audiobook, anything. But my point being, the lifeblood of the industry has to be having young people be excited about the opportunity. And that
Yeah.
was what we led with. That's what your basically charge is. Not only are you providing service to the client, but you're providing service to the profession and career tracking
Hmm.
from the ground up. Hey, come on in the profession and then come on in our firm and we will career track you to have your cup filled.
Yep.
Uh, all right.
The pipeline is near and dear to my heart. It's kind of become almost one of my passion projects along the way. I feel like I stumbled kind of upon it in a sense, but I've always wanted to showcase the dynamic opportunities within the profession. And it's funny because, we talk about Zumba and I laugh because somebody said to me once, "Hey, Nicole, you have a really strong personal brand." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Well, the Zumba CPA check." And I'm like, the Zumba, yeah, it's just something I do. Like I enjoy doing it. It's passion. It makes me excited. It gets me energized. But they're like, yeah, but you teach Zumba at accounting conferences, and I'm like, well, yeah, because like, why not? And they're like, yeah, but that's like really cool. And I'm like, I didn't think of it like that. I just thought of me bringing in my passions into my day job and figuring out a creative way to kind of integrate the two. But showcasing the fact that your passions don't necessarily have to align with your day job, but you can still do both, I think is really cool. And people have started running clubs at their accounting firms, or we go on wellness walks on Thursdays because somebody had the idea, and then we're like, okay, let's do it. And then now people go on. We Our office is in Boonton Township, and it backs right up to kind of one of those nature trail things. So they go on wellness walks on Thursdays, but it's just, it's a profession that you can, take bold action and do what you love what you do on a daily basis if you really want to, or you don't have to, you can keep it separate. But for me, I'd rather integrate my passions and teach Zumba at conferences and show people that, yeah, we can be, we can have a lot of fun, even if it's at 6 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, breath of fresh air. I really, that's awesome.